Hi, this video is for teachers who want to use Turnitin.com to render feedback and to be in touch with their students. This video will walk you through the basics of logging in, creating a class, and then posting an assignment to that class. The very first step using Turnitin.com is to log in, and you'll find a login tab right on the main page of Turnitin.com up in the right-hand corner. If you need help at all with logging in, please reach out to SCIS IT. This is their email address, hq-tech@scis-his.org. And IT has confirmed to me as of November 4th, 2016, that this is their current email address. So once you've done that, please log in to Turnitin.com. Once you've logged into Turnitin.com and set up your account with the join password from SCIS IT, you will be on the main landing page for Turnitin.com. Up here is a taskbar. There's a message here. The message is just saying this right here, that it'll be down for a while. I'm an instructor. Chosen language is English, and there's a help tab over here as well. You can see down below that I have a number of classes already in session, but I'll walk you through now how to add a class. So this is your first time in. You will have to add a class, and I recommend you use class type standard. Class name, we can call this World History. Enrollment password, I generally keep this quite simple, so I would suggest you choose a simple one. I'll choose one here. History. Subject areas. History. Student ages. And then the class end date. So usually I would set this to sometime in June when the class ends, let's say June 16th, and submit that. Okay, so you can see now in my class roster, I have a class name, World History. And remember please that we set that join password as history. Students will also need the class ID that's to the side. So they'll need the class ID 139-43744 and the join password history in order to enter your class. If I click into that class, I can see that I have no assignments. I've just created the class. Of course I have no assignments. So the first assignment I'd like to do is a piece of writing, and I want to add an assignment. This way I can get set up to render student feedback. I love Turnitin.com for rendering feedback because you can give comments on what's written. You can give written comments, and you can also give voice comments, and you can also use rubrics. So I'm going to call this short essay on China. Point value. I'll give it 10 points. I'll say today's the start date. It is due on Monday. And then post date here is going to let you set when the students can see feedback. So you'll need some time to render that feedback, and post date is when they'll be able to see that feedback. If it's due Monday, I will set the feedback to be delivered on Friday, and you can also even set the time. Sometimes that can be useful for you. Here, I would strongly suggest that you only allow the file types that Turnitin can check for originality. If you allow any file type, you may have problems with uploading. In the optional settings, you can do some things that are interesting, especially for rough drafts. Enter special instructions. I don't frequently use that. Allow submissions after the due date. That is up to you. I generally keep it set as yes. Generate originality reports. I think this is generally quite important. And I generally leave the rest of these on the default. But here's a very interesting one. Submit papers to. So if this is a rough draft, you may want to select Submit Papers to No Repository. Why? The paper will just stay on the system itself. It will not add it to the collection of papers that Turnitin.com checks against. That's important if students are going to be submitting a second copy, because it will check their second copy against their first copy, and it will come back with a very high similarity score, and that can make students nervous even though it's similar to their own work. So I would suggest on a rough draft, you check No Repository, and similarly on a final draft, I would strongly urge you to check Standard Paper Repository so it is added to the body of work that Turnitin can check against. You can also limit the search options I leave those all checked. This is something I'll cover in a later video, but you can use rubrics that you've put in, and I've put in some for economics, for IB economics, and this is very, very useful when you go to grade. And you can choose to select or not those as your future defaults. So submit, and what do we have? Now we have a paper assignment. It starts on November 4th. It's due then. It's going to post the feedback to students on this day. Nobody has submitted it. And the students will now be able to see it on their page as something they could submit. So they'll have the option then to submit an assignment. If they've joined your class, they'll have an option to assign or to submit this paper. You can also go through, if you need to, you can delete the assignment if you've made a mistake. You can submit a paper on behalf of a student, or you can go in and edit some settings if you need to. Let's take a look at what that looks like. It'll just take you back to the same menu we just went through. So if you need to change something like a due date, you can use that menu. Okay? This is a basic primer on how to get started, and please tune in for our next video on how to render feedback through Turnitin.com.